backbone of our economy, the MSMEs face their own set of hurdles. But there's hope on the horizon thanks to revolutionary credit platform Solv. Solv's digital value chain is democratizing access for retailers, improving credit systems, and disrupting the manufacturing ecosystem across regions. Join us in this journey of transformation and empowerment as we speak with Amit Bansal, CEO, Solv, as part of Super Achievers Making New India, powered by VoiceWhat.
Thank you, Amit, for being on Leaders of Tomorrow.
Hi, thank you, Ritwika, for having me.
So to begin with, tell us a little bit about Solv, what you do, what was the initial motivation to set up a company like this, and how has the journey been so far?
So let's talk about the initial motivation. I've been back in India for the last 10 years, and on this journey, I have met a lot of MSMEs, right? Over the last 10 years, I've met them to understand their challenges, how they struggle to grow, right? How they struggle for working capital, how they struggle for loans, how they struggle to acquire new customers, right? So the last 10 years that I've spent to learn their challenges, Solv as a B2B platform was a fantastic opportunity to get on the same side of the table as the MSMEs and help solve for them, right? So that's what Solv is about. Solv is a B2B e-commerce platform that enables commerce for the long tail retailers of our country.
So Amit, as I was researching for this interview, I read that you are looking to accelerate growth for more than 60 million MSMEs in India. How are you planning to achieve this?
So on our marketplace, there are two sides of the marketplace. One is obviously the supply side and the demand side.
Yeah.
On the supply side, let's look at a factory, right? Today, the factory designs, makes products, distributes products, provides credit, collects money.
Sure.
However, their core strength is to design and make products. Distributing a product, providing credit, collecting money is not their core strength.
Sure.
But because nobody else is able to do it for them, they have to do it on their own. So for the factories, Solv is a platform that helps them distribute their products directly to the retailers. They can catalog their product digitally, they can maintain pricing, they can maintain inventory, track all their orders right to the retailer and back.
Okay.
Right? So that's the digital end of the journey for the factory. In a way, Solv lets factory do what they do best, which is to make products. Right? They don't have to worry about distribution or collecting money or even lending. That's what Solv does for them.
Right.
If you are a small retailer based out of a tier 2, tier 3 town, right, out of India, anywhere in India, typically you would depend on a commission agent or a middleman to get access to new products and selection.
Sure.
Right? Which then really limits to how much of ranges that you can have available to you in your tier 2, tier 3 town. That's one. Second, because your order quantities are very small, the small retailers never get access to benefits of pricing.
Right.
This is where Solv is enabling their growth. We are enabling the entire ecosystem of factories, whether it's Panipat, Ahmedabad, Coimbatore, Surat, right? A seller, a retailer sitting out of a tier 2, tier 3 town will have access to all of these factories at the click of a button on their mobile phone, right? Which means they have now all of a sudden have much larger access to selection. Even though their order quantities are small, as a platform, we are able to aggregate these orders and pass on aggregated large quantity orders to the factories, wherein we are able to negotiate better prices for the retailers and pass on the benefits of pricing to the retailer. So it's a win-win for both the factories and the retailers.
Fantastic. So then, what sets Solv apart from competition? And are you also dabbling into new, categories or new areas?
So on one end of the spectrum is the large corporates, where everyone is solving for the large corporates, and large corporates have access to a glut of resources. Right? Over the last 15 years, there's billions of dollars that have flown in to solve the digitization journey of B2C, whether it's commerce, whether it's ticket booking, whether it's home delivered food. Right? However, in the middle, between two extremes of large corporates and the end consumer who's the king, the MSMEs of our country have sort of been forgotten. We call them the missing middle, right? And Solv is solving for that missing middle, because I fundamentally believe that for India to become a $5 to $6 trillion economy, the MSMEs have to be strengthened. Yeah.
Sure.
So if you look at multiple reports from large investment bankers and investors, the next 10 years, there will be a lot of solve that will happen in the MSME trade and the digitization of the B2B journeys of our country. This market, the e-commerce B2B, is expected to be about $130 billion over the next 5 years.
Right. So, Amit, what I'm curious to understand is that, there's a lot of investment, flowing into B2C, and you also come from quite an impressive B2C background.
Yeah.
So why B2B? What are the opportunities do you see in B2B?
See, over the last 15 years, I think, and Flipkart was kind of the harbinger of B2C evolution. There's billions of dollars that have flown in to India, and there's a lot of fantastic teams, the likes of Flipkart and Amazon, who've tried to solve the digitization journey of B2C, and there's a lot of headway that's been made, right? However, on the other end of the spectrum is the large corporates, right? There's the whole ecosystem willing to solve for the large corporates, and there is a lot of startups solving for the B2C. Now, between these two extremes, the MSME of our country is kind of sort of the missing middle, right? They're almost the forgotten. Although they form 30% of the country's GDP, for us to be able to move from a $3.7 trillion economy to a $5-6 trillion economy, the MSMEs will have to be strengthened and they will have to play a bigger role.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's where Solv comes in to help them grow stronger and emerge better.
Right. So picking up from what you said, I also want to talk about the distribution process and how you're looking to improve that for better, profit margins. And if you can elaborate in terms of how you plan to achieve this, and what's your take on the distribution process of the business?
So the entire value chain that Solv is serving is a complete digital ecosystem, right from cataloging that begins at the end of the factory, maintaining pricing by the factory, ordering by the last mile retailer. The moment a retailer places an order, right, a ping goes to a factory owner for them to be able to pick, and mark the goods ready for shipment, wherein a authorized Solv partner will go collect the goods. The goods shall be in transit, which in both cases are tracked by the retailer, the factory, and Solv on a digital platform. And once the goods are delivered, all three parties, which is Solv, the factory, and the retailer, knows that the goods have been delivered. So we are digitizing the entire value chain of the B2B, which so far has been inefficient and complex.
Right. Solv is also looking to establish, or you're already established, a fully digital credit marketplace, right? Can you tell us, how this is going to really shape up? What is your thoughts on these, and especially in terms of how this is going to impact the supply chain in terms of the finance side of things?
The credit gap in India is almost $300 billion in the MSMEs. And we need to just take a little bit of a step back and understand why the credit gap exists. A lot of the MSMEs are not a part of the formal economy, right? Because the national large banks may find it very uneconomical and not very efficient to acquire and service these retailers because their turnovers are very small. Like a typical mom and pop store may do a turnover of less than 1 crore a year, right? So their turnovers are small, the requirements of loan is very small, right? And lastly, they may not be a part of the whole formal credit bureau and credit rating system, right? Here is where Solv steps in via alternative data modeling, right? Because when these retailers, they transact on our platform, we know exactly how much they are ordering, what kind of products they are ordering, how frequently they are ordering. Basis the data that we have collected, we are able to build a pseudo credit bureau on top of this alternative credit data. And we have at least 12 large banks and NBFCs plugged in as credit providers on our platform. We work very closely with them to enable credit for the long tail MSME retailers.
Fantastic. On that note, tell us, what is your vision for Solv in the years to come? What can we expect from you?
So the core purpose of Solv is to really improve livelihoods of MSMEs in the country. Right? If you look at really large and developed economies in Europe and North America, over the last 3 to 4 decades, with the advent of very large big box retail stores, the MSMEs have gotten really marginalized. Right? Solv's core purpose is to ensure that that doesn't happen in our country. It plays beautifully into the government's mission of Make in India, and in a way, Atmanirbhar Bharat, right? So that our MSMEs become included in the growth journey as India moves firmly from 3.7 to a $5-6 trillion economy. And they don't just become a part of the growth, but they actually become key enablers to that growth. That's what Solv's about.
So those were some really insightful takeaways, Amit. Thank you so much for joining us today. All the best.
Thank you so much for having me on 18 Hour, Ritwika.
It's time for a quick break here. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned.